Okay, now coming in at number 2, and this is apparently my controversial choice, I chose NESN as the number 2.
I'll be interested to hear where this is.
Okay, well here's how I look at NESN. I think that NESN has one thing they have going for them is they've got the Red Sox 162 games a year or 150 games a year, and they're the only people that have it. I mean, that is an enormous chip to have in your favor. And they also have to me, they have an incredible brand. I mean, there is not a single human being in New England who does not know what NESN is. True?
Agreed.
So I think that there's a real base for them. I mean, I think NESN used to kind of be like, okay, it's the Red Sox, and then it's a bunch of stuff that no one would ever want to watch. And I think that they are still that to a certain extent. They're still struggling to fill their programming time. I guess if I'm looking at it from if I'm sitting there and I've got $1 billion to invest in something, I'll take my chances with NESN.
Well, not even invest, but look at it from, say, you're an advertiser who's trying to reach the sports fan demographic.
Right.
Where are you going to go? You're going to go to where the most eyes are, and that's definitely NESN. But the problem is how much NESN are people watching outside of 7 o'clock first pitch?
You know right, what I mean? But that's why I think that I feel like NESN with the Red Sox and the Bruins having that, I feel like they're starting. I was looking at the NESN website, and they're kind of starting to try to do more.
They have blogs. They have columns.
They have the blogs. They have the columnists. I feel like they are in a great position to do what WEEI is trying to do and saying, okay, we're going to take what we are and double it. I think NESN has that same opportunity and more. I could be wrong, and I'd be happy to hear in great detail why I'm wrong. But the weakness of NESN is, do they have any kind of edge? Whereas these other entities, they all have a certain edge or they're coming from a certain place. NESN is very kind of, everyone's smiling all the time.
I think part of that is it comes from on high. I think part of that is the upper office is basically the Red Sox, and they're performing to what the Red Sox are telling them they can do. That's why you don't really hear strong criticism of the team on NESN.
Right. And although I think that's unfair to a certain extent. I think that
you'll get Tom Caron saying, well, I think it's just not working out with John Smoltz.
Well, you know what it is, though? When you're working closely with a team, is it that you don't want to criticize, or is it that you are maybe less likely to just throw something out there critical that's unfair? Whereas, like we spoke about some of these other guys, like a Jerry Callahan or a Shaughnessy might, he doesn't care what he says particularly because he just doesn't have that feeling of, well, I don't care if it offends this person. Whereas I don't think they're dialing it back because they don't want to get in trouble, but maybe they can see it a little more clearly than these guys from the outside can.
NESN is like the number one example of, and we can say the same thing about the Yes Network, but now that we have it here, but it's the same thing of they are pandering to that Red Sox audience, and
as is everybody else. Everyone's pandering to the Red Sox audience.
When I watch a sports broadcast, I don't want to be referred to as Red Sox Nation. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a Red Sox fan. But when you start coming up with all these, constructs of what that is, and you start trying to make more out of it into it, and then you've got, this president of Red Sox Nation crap. So much of what they're doing now is geared toward, and I hate to use this phrase, and it's used on these
Pink Hat fans.
I hate to use the Pink Hat phrase, but so much of it is,
but Pink Hat fans are out there. They're just as valid as, stat head fans.
But I just don't think that you need to
pink what stat pink heads.
Pink scorebooks.
Pink books. I don't know.
To me, it's too much when you're watching it. It's just too wishy-washy, folksy. We all love the Red Sox. It's our grandfather's team, and it's part of the family.
But but that's the truth. That's how most people feel about the Red Sox.
To me, it feels like it's kind of a false presentation.
I wish I could live with Wally the Green Monster all the time. Like, I want to wake up and hug Wally the Green Monster.
I really don't want to say anything bad here because we're going to get emails on this. I like Jerry Remy.
Yes.
I think he's a very good analyst. I think we go way over the top about Remy being this just. Remember a few years ago when everybody was pushing for Remy to be the manager of the Red Sox?
Did that happen?
No.
Yes. There was a very, very loud.
I think you're listening to the wrong people.
There was a very loud push for that coming from these fans, these pink hat fans that we're talking about. And I think what they're doing is they're superseding the Red Sox brand over what's actually happening on the field. If you can get what I'm saying.
I do hear what you're saying.
Here's what I'll say about NESN. You guys have covered it pretty well while I sat here watching the two of you talk.
Sorry.
We talked earlier about not having accomplished anything yet when it was with the Sports Hub. NESN has a huge amount of untapped potential, but do we have any evidence to believe, based on 20 years as a network, that they have any ability to capitalize upon it? They have the Red Sox games, they have the Bruins games, and everything else they have done, with maybe 5% exception, is horrible. They're trying to establish this web portal. The material on it is just not. It's not there.
I see what you're saying.
The
I
talent
agree.
isn't there. The production isn't there.
I'm trying to look. Let's look ahead though.
That's you can. I
understand.
I think
that there's more potential for growth with NESN.
I would agree with that, but I also look at it as, they're going to continue to be. They're going to continue to be owned by the Red Sox and the Bruins jointly. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you can't succeed in that construct, but we have 2 decades of evidence that they haven't figured it out yet.
That's true.
Their success is based on covering games. Even their sports desk show is terrible.
Oh man,
it is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's bad.
That's where I can't understand why you rank NESN number 2, though, and you rank CSN number 6, because they're essentially the same thing. It's just one is doing a much better job of covering the team that's their bread and butter because that team owns the network. If the Celtics own Comcast Sportsnet, it would be a much better network in terms of how they cover the games.
And honestly, if we really want to get into it, I happen to like Jack Edwards as a color man. I like Orsillo and Remy. There are strong audiences out there who feel like that the two of them, or those two groups, take away from the actual coverage of the games, which is the best thing that NESN has going for
but
it.
That's, that is,
no
matter who's doing the broadcast, there's people that hate them. And
there was this rise of Don Orsillo, and a lot of people were just burying the guy because he wasn't Sean McDonough. And I think that you are getting quality play-by-play out of him. You're getting quality analysis out of Remy. And then you're getting quality post-game analysis. And then after that, I'm going to bed. There's nothing on that network that would keep me tuned. Oh, wait. There's that 2-hour rebroadcast of the game that I just watched.
All right. So fair enough. So I think what it comes down to is that you guys are dumb and I am awesome and right.
NESN could be great.
NESN, once I put my $1 billion into it, they've got the footprint. Perhaps we'll knock them down a couple of notches on the list after the scathing and somewhat frightening criticisms levied by these gentlemen. But NESN, if we had to pick an MVP quickly, my MVP, even though he's not even officially on staff, is Eckersley. I think if there was a 24-hour Eckersley network, I would seriously consider subscribing. Cooch?
My MVP is the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair.
I do love Eck and what he brings to the table, but I'd have to say Tom Caron because of
TC!
The fact that he can anchor that Red Sox and Bruins coverage so smoothly. He does a great job of not stirring the pot and keeping the show rolling.
Does a good job.
I'm sorry, NESN. I love you as people.